Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
And I'll let you get settled in, and we'll let our clock assistant get settled in as well.
All right.
And you can begin your comments when you're ready.
Okay. Well, good morning, folks. My name is Patrick McElyea, and I am proud to serve as a district court judge in the 7th Judicial District. I want to begin by acknowledging your service on this commission. I wholeheartedly believe that our merit selection process helps maintain the integrity of our judiciary. And so I want to say thank you for your time and your dedication as part of this commission. I also want to say that I'm going to work to keep my comments brief so that I have an opportunity to engage with you all and answer any questions that you might have. As I've reflected back on this process, a couple things have stood out to me. And the first one is that why question. Why do you want to be on the Court of Appeals? And that question has been asked to me in two very different ways. You see, the first way is with enthusiasm and excitement. Why do you want to be on the Court of Appeals? The second, well, that's with maybe, let's say, a little bit of skepticism. Why do you want to be on the Court of Appeals? And the way that question's asked generates two very different sets of thoughts and feelings for me. You see, the first one with excitement, that has me thinking about the intellectual challenge of this work, the opportunity to decide a wide variety of cases throughout the state, the chance to hone my judicial writing skills to provide clarity to our trial court judges and litigants, and to join a team of judges who work hard, who have robust disagreements, and who are able to sit down and share a meal together and enjoy one another's company. Now the second one, let's call it the skepticism question, that has me thinking about the public service aspect of this position. And I think about how essential the work is of the Court of Appeals to decide a high volume of cases and resolve disputes for folks who have been waiting months, if not years, for a resolution to their case. And I think about how rewarding and fulfilling it would be not only to provide that resolution, but also to provide a greater service to the state by deciding that high volume of cases. And so this position is both extremely intellectually exciting and engaging to me, while also giving me an opportunity to serve the state in a different capacity. And so that's sort of the why piece, right? And then it's why me? What do I have to offer? What do I bring to the table? And naturally that brings about its own set of self-reflection. And I think about what has shaped me as a person, an attorney, and a judge. And there have been many different people and many different experiences throughout my life that make me who I am today. But something that I've talked to several of you about is the role of the game of golf. And as the golfers in the room know, golf can be a very fun, relaxing, recreational activity, sometimes. Other times, it can be so frustrating that by the time you get back to your car, you have given up the game and wondered why you ever took it up in the first place. But even though there's that swing of emotions, it's teaching us something. It's a game that teaches us about character. It rewards hard work and humility, and it demands a good temperament. And I think there's a lot of overlap with being a judge. I have learned how to look back at myself, analyze my weaknesses, and turn them into strengths. I've gained the humility to say if there's an issue in front of me, I may not have all the answers. So I'll walk down the hallway to a colleague that has more experience or more expertise and get some insight from them. And finally, and probably most importantly, it's taught me about keeping your emotions in check. Because I know as a judge, if I'm making decisions based on emotion, I'm probably not going to make a good decision. I work very hard to treat the people in my courtroom with compassion, with patience, and with empathy, so that they walk out of that courthouse feeling as though they were heard. And so that's a little bit about why I'm excited about this position and what I feel I would offer to it. And I am hopeful that through my life experiences, my skill set, and who I am as a person will allow me to enhance what is already an incredibly strong group of judges on the Court of Appeals. And with that, I'm excited to hear your questions.
We'll start the questioning with Commissioner Stees.
Having spent time in your courtroom, I feel like I have a leg up on some of the other commissioners, but I won't bring that up. We have a wide variety of applicants to the position, some judges, some not judges, and I know that much of the work of the Court of Appeals is evaluating abuse of discretion. And having the requirement of exercising discretion every day in your work, do you think that that gives you a leg up on the appellate process in evaluating how other judges exercise theirs?
Absolutely. I think everybody brings their own set of experiences, and so I think there's a lot of value to the variety of candidates that we have. I think one of the benefits of being a trial court judge is having sat there and used that discretion, whether it's in a sentencing situation, maybe continuing a case, other situations where we're using our discretion and given that leeway. I'm going to know what that person has dealt with, what to look for in the transcript, what their reasoning may have been, so that I can make that analysis as to whether or not they exercise their discretion appropriately or inappropriately.
Thanks.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yeah, morning.
Morning.
So I want to talk about your appellate experience a little bit. We talked about this a little bit when we met. I think in just reviewing your application, it looks like you maybe worked on one appeal. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. So others in this group that have applied today have, most of them have more experience in appellate practice than that. But can you speak to any other appellate-related experience you have that prepares you for being nominated today?
I think one of the experiences that I've had as a judge that gives me some appellate experience was, and I touched on it in my application, was reviewing that Maxwell decision, which was a vacancy board decision made at the county level. And so that gave me the opportunity to review a transcript of that proceeding, review briefing by both attorneys, and really dealt with a very nuanced area of the law that the legislature had ruled on mere weeks, or had established a new law on mere weeks before we were asked, or I was asked to make that decision. And so I think that's some relevant experience, and I think we also see what goes on. I think a lot of the record that you're going to see a summary judgment or something along those lines is going to be very similar when it's argued to me as a trial court judge as when it's going to be argued to the appellate court. So I think there's some overlap there.
Commissioner Parrish?
Judge, I've sat on a couple of these commissions in the past, but the variety of letters that we've received, that I've received, maybe no one else got them, but
Oh, we got them.
it was impressive. But
Thank
what
you.
was most impressive about them was the diversity and background of those individuals, and even phone calls I thought were quite impressive. My question for you is, what is it about you and the way you run your court or has conducted your practice to gather that diversity of people to be supportive of you?
Should I
Can
direct you to
share-
Leon?
Can
Or
you share, can you share that with the commission? I thought it was quite impressive.
Thank you. I work hard to have a courtroom that is open and respectful. I mentioned that in my opening remarks, right? I work very hard to make sure that folks feel as though they are heard inside my courtroom. I think working on the mental health court has really helped build a lot of empathy for me and having an understanding of some of the trials and tribulations of people that are coming into our courthouse on a daily basis. I'm also mindful that as a new judge, it was drummed into me by a few of my more experienced colleagues, and I think it's so important to remember that that's the most important day in their life, the person that's in your courtroom. And so I think always being mindful of that and always carrying that when you walk onto the bench, to remember that it may be Tuesday afternoon for you, but for them, this is going to determine where their children are, significant financial issue, their liberty. And so I think the work or the focus that I put in to make sure that everybody in my courtroom feels important and feels those things that I talked about earlier probably or hopefully helps breed some of those letters.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harkuff?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
You just mentioned that you're the presiding judge on the 7th Judicial Mental Health Court. Can you talk about how that experience will help you be a better judge if you're ultimately selected to serve on the Court of Appeals?
Absolutely. And just for those of you who I didn't have a chance to explain it to, the mental health court, there are 4 of them in the state. It's a problem-solving court, so we have folks on the criminal side who have gotten involved in the criminal justice system, and as a large part, that's due to a result of some serious mental illness. And through a team of social workers, defense attorney, prosecutor, we provide sort of a support network so that they can hopefully kind of break that cycle of the revolving door and lead a life of a lot more stability and outside of the criminal justice system. And we work in all 5 counties of the 7th Judicial District. That's been an incredibly rewarding experience from a number of perspectives. One, it just allows me to interact with folks in our justice system in a totally different way. It's a very casual atmosphere where I'm checking in with them about what's going on in their life, little victories we're encouraging them on, taking medication every single day, right? That's a pretty basic thing to a lot of us, but for a lot of folks in our program, that's a daily struggle. And so understanding that maybe it's helped give me some perspective on things that I may get upset about on a daily basis is pretty small compared to what some challenges of our litigants face. And I look forward to the opportunity. I talked to a lot of you about this. Just got back from DC earlier this month, and I'll be going around our judicial branch and other agencies talking about how we can better serve people outside of the criminal justice system, just anywhere in our justice system that are dealing with mental illness. So I think it's probably the biggest thing it's given me is just perspective and help build that empathy that I just talked about.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Thank you. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
You served as Special Assistant U.S. Attorney and had your work focused on drugs and violence against women. Could you comment about the best and the worst of that experience and how those insights might affect your ability to serve on the Court of Appeals?
The worst, I will say, is just impact on community. We all know the impact that illicit drugs, particularly things like methamphetamine, heroin, drugs like that have on our community and unfortunately on people's lives, as well as violence in the home and outside of the home with loved ones or people that don't even have a relationship, and just the dramatic impact and toll that takes on our society. As far as my experience and what I can bring to the Court of Appeals, I think that something that's beneficial about having worked in those 2 specific areas is that you have a lot of specific evidentiary issues that you're dealing with. In the violence against women, sexual abuse, domestic abuse arena, oftentimes you have people that don't want to participate in the criminal prosecution. And so what are some unique evidentiary issues that we're going to have to deal with when prosecutors are trying to use 911 calls or police body cameras or certified records to prove certain elements of their offense? And so I think I'm equipped to address those issues. On the drug side, it's an ever-changing landscape. When I was first prosecuting methamphetamine cases, people were still making their own, and so we were using NPLEX logs where you buy pseudoephedrine and trying to see what the admissibility of that. Now it's going to be TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, things of that nature. And so our court still has a long way to go with addressing those issues, and one of the things I look forward to is providing that clarity to our trial court judges as to how to handle those issues in their courtroom on the morning of trial.
Thank you.
Commissioner Graber?
Good morning, Judge. Thank you
morning.
for your application.
Thank you.
You talked about reflecting back and looking at maybe some weaknesses and turning them into strengths. So take you forward 5 years from now, you were appointed into this position, and you reflect back on your time on the Court of Appeals. How would you know if you did a good job?
It's a great question. I think one of the things that would show me that I'm doing a good job, and one of the things I like about our current court, is I think they take an active role in training us as district court judges. Now Justice McDonald and Judge Tabor put on a great seminar a couple years ago about judicial writing, and they educated us as to what are some things they really like in our opinions, what are some things they don't like in our opinions, what's helpful, what's not helpful. And so I think I would look back, and if I were one of the judges that were being asked to do some of those things, to educate not only our trial court, but also maybe advocate for consistent changes that we can make as a system, I think that would tell me that I'm fulfilling my obligations in improving the court and making it better.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stanger?
Good morning.
Morning.
Still morning. I'm going to go back to what you started with in the importance of our merit selection process and the integrity of the branch. And I want to weave in the Gelman Inn in
Okay.
St. Donatus.
Oh,
So-
nice. All right.
Okay, so when we visited, I shared about my importance of my rural upbringing and my fancy office now, and how important right since second grade it was that this branch looked to be a beacon of hope in the state of Iowa. And I'd like you to share your reflection a little bit more about what it means for this commission to protect against the attacks politically, or the insider hack, that sort of thing. In your perspective, I guess, from observing this process.
First of all, I think I really do believe wholeheartedly in what you all are doing here. The fact that we have a blend of attorneys who are elected from the bar, we have members of the commission who are appointed by the governor that may have a legal background and may not have a legal background. And you all ask very different questions when we've met individually and here today, and I think that's incredibly important to sort of flesh out what kind of candidates you're getting. And I think the transparency piece, this is being broadcast on YouTube. Everybody can see what's going on, and I think that's hugely important. Just as when I walk into the courtroom, especially when we have self-represented litigants, I don't want to have counsel back in my chambers and then walk in all chummy with them, and the self-represented litigant feels like this was a stacked deck against me already. And so I think the transparency piece, I think the active engagement from people throughout the community is hugely important to maintaining that integrity because it's under attack. And I think we need to continue to be vigilant about maintaining that.
Thank you, Judge.
Commissioner Henderson.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Hoyt.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Bevel.
I understood you to say today, you mentioned prosecution and referenced methamphetamine. Those of us who were practicing in the 90s saw what happened with crack cocaine and how it was a crime, and now we're talking about public health. Have you witnessed that, and what do you think led to that?
I have witnessed it. I mean, we are lucky to have 4 mental health courts, but we have, I think, 13 drug courts throughout the state. One of our programs that I think is back up and running is we have a jail-based treatment program within our Scott County Jail. I think we are finally starting to turn that corner of treating situations, especially people who come in with simple possession, and it's the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 17th time, how we're going to address that. Because I say to folks all the time in a sentencing or a probation revocation, I need you to be a productive member of our society. And so we need to have that public health mindset. I think it's getting there. I think that there's been more education for judges. I think there's more education for probation officers and other people in the law enforcement community. And then focusing on where's it coming from and how do we deal with that from a punishment accountability standpoint.
Commissioner Hanson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What would you see as the most challenging litigation you've ever handled, and why?
Close your ears, Leon. I will say the trial that Leon and I had was incredibly emotionally difficult. We had a courtroom full of people for 2 weeks where you could just feel the emotion. And that just was incredibly difficult to manage and to make sure, again, that everybody got a fair shake. That's kind of recency bias. I know there have been other difficult ones. Sex abuse cases come to mind, things like that. But as far as raw emotion from not only the litigants but the gallery, that was incredibly difficult.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor, for being here. Thank you for your application. I practice on the western side of the state and have for many years. And we always keep hearing about this state of Scott, all right? And I don't practice in Davenport because I think there might be some peculiar rules there that I'm not aware of. And what I'm leading up to is, do you think it's important that we have judges from throughout the state to be on the Court of Appeals? Because there are those unwritten rules in different parts of the state.
I do, and we get a little bit of a unique reputation, I'll just say, for our rules. But I think one of the things that's incredibly important is that diversity from a geographic standpoint. And what I like about the 7th is that we're just a diverse district. We have urban, we have kind of middle-sized counties with Clinton and Muscatine, and we have the rural aspect with Cedar and Jackson. But we also have a diverse group of people. We have people from all walks of life, sometimes from other countries, and so we deal with those issues. We have the border issues, that, you know, what's going on in Illinois and how does that impact what we're doing here in Davenport or Clinton or Muscatine. And so I think it's hugely important that we make sure that the whole state, one, feels represented, and two, that we can understand some nuances that happen throughout our state.
Thank you, thank you.
And I see our time is going to be up right now.
All right.
So you timed that perfectly. We appreciate your application, and we'll look forward to deliberating it later this afternoon.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.